Oh, he is. Oh, he is. Okay. I wasn't
You're like the pimento cheese. I'm sure you love it. I think it's Okra doesn't do it.
Yeah, so he was dropping off his stuff. She drove it steam. So he's tonight and tomorrow. There right now. So we have to pick it up. We'll be on it.
I think a hand might. Yeah.
It's like this one's wired, so just turned off. Not turned off.
Just in the power button. Awesome. Thank you so much.
She's like, we're getting away. It's their anniversary.
Jimmy, sir.
She actually, yeah. I can make
I mean, it's such a relation. It feels like they want to see this message for each other, even in massive ways. Like, that was something that in the U.S.
through. We have a wonderful speaker we want to hear, and you know I've dragged on so you know, one thing about East Chapel Hill Rotarians, I wonder if I'm the only member who's ever had a bad day. Everyone else is so accomplished, you know, it makes me wonder. Speaking of bad days, in 1980, speaking of bad days, when I first started preparing for this, I was thinking it was January 29th, so I looked up what happened on January 29th. Turns out, no, today is the 31st. But anyway, on January 29th in 1989, speaking of bad days, Chris Dudley of the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA achieved an impressive feat, or maybe I should say a depressing feat. He drew a foul, went to shoot 2 free throws. Missed the first one, missed the second one. But wait, the other team committed a lane violation, so Chris Dudley got a third shot, which he missed. But believe it or not, there was a second lane violation. He also missed that. That's 4 shots he's now missed. Lo and behold, there was another lane violation, giving Dudley yet another chance, which What do you think happened? You got it. He missed it. You got it. He didn't. He missed it. 5 free throws. Anyway, as if to prove this exercise of futility was not a fluke, in April of the following year, Dudley set an NBA record by missing 13 consecutive free throws during the night of 1 for 18 from the line. I'm sorry. So you missed the app that Chris Dudley missed 13 free throws in a row and was 1 for 18 on the night, which is pretty pathetic. But don't feel too sorry for Chris Dudley. Although he shot less than 46% from the free throw line for his career, it lasted 16 years, and he earned over $32 million. So there's hope for us non-achievers. In the spirit of looking on the bright side, I'd like to read you some words sung by Dick Van Dyke in both the show and movie versions of Bye Bye Birdie. Gray skies are going to clear up. Put on a happy face. Brush off the clouds and cheer up. Put on a happy face. Take off the gloomy mask of tragedy. It's not your style. You'll look so good that you'll be glad you decided to smile, etc., etc., etc. Put on a happy face. We have some guests here today. I'm going to start us off. We have not some guests. We have a ton of guests. So we're going to have to go quickly. We're going to ask you to stand. Maybe all of you can stand. I'll introduce mine first. We have with me Rich Frazier, who is a legacy member of the club. His dad, Hal, was welcome, Rich.
My husband, Brian Sanders,
In fact, for time's sake, let's hold the applause for the end, okay?
my daughter,
Yeah, I brought a lot of folks. First of all, my beautiful wife, Mary Lynn. Her mom, the best mother-in-law the guy could have, Claire Ryerson. A good friend and neighbor, Tanya Helms. And 3 more friends and neighbors, Joe Greco, who is going to be a retiring student from Duke University. Marcus Delvers, who's, I think, retiring today from Beringer England. And Jerry Romagnoli.
I have 2 guests, Brian Ruster, who is having his second lunch with us, and Christy Bryce, who is also here for the second time.
All right.
Are there any visiting right there? Oh, Cliff?
Oh, we got cuts.
And I thought you would tell the story about when you got on the airplane, you got hijacked. I thought that was a sport you would tell.
No, I'm not telling that. But it's true.
One more guy.
One more.
Mike Phillip, good friend, good guy.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. I started the fine basket. If you brought a guest, please put in $1. If you did not bring in a guest, put in $2. Okay, so we're going to quickly try to go through this quickly. We're going to play a game today. I want some audience involvement. So, I had it so I could show it on the screen, but it turns out we don't have the right computer. So I'm going to read it to you, but I'm going to give you the first few words of something recognizable from an ad. Something like, for instance, only you can. And we're going to pair 2 tables against one another. So these 2 tables say you're playing one another. First one who can finish that line, shout out, and you will advance to the next round. So only you can prevent. All right. Now you're supposed to also be able to give me who it's from. Your inflection is only you. You. Okay. Well, that one was just practice anyway. So we are going to pair these front two tables right now. This is it. You ready? Tastes great.
Let's go.
Right here.
Right there. Okay. Your table's eliminated. You two. Are you ready? Where's
Sorry, I just had to.
your team disqualified? You know what they are. Which one won over there? Both you two advance and stay around. Okay, next two tables. Boom, boom. Bet you can't. Eat just one. Who said that? Mike Maxwell. Your table wins. Two tables all the way right back. Have it your way. That table, I think. Next. Two tables remaining. The breakfast of check. Wait, who said that? That wasn't your turn. It's the tables for that. Did one of you guys say that? Well, we're advanced, whoever. Okay. These two teams have advanced from the first round. You're going against one another. Ready? We try harder. You got it, Davis. Okay, who are the next two winners? Take it. Nope. I have to give you now. Take it off. Take it off. Take it off. Who said that? You got it. Like seeing the shave cream.
Short.
Okay. We have two more winning teams. Anyway. Okay, melt.
Not in your hand.
Okay, we're getting close to the final. Who's left? We're left. Who's right? You deserve. Great today. You guys watch way too much TV. The quicker. Picker upper. Be all. America runs. I'm Duncan. Think outside. Not the box. The bun. It's not TV. You got half of it right.
The recorder thing.
No.
No.
It's not TV, it's HBO. All right, that's it. I'm done. President.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Steve, that was very well done, except you were supposed to say put $5 in if you think Duke's going to win. So I put in 20. Good to see everybody. Beautiful day. I have a few announcements. In the scuttlebutt, there's a link for a survey to take. That's table, correct? To see if you want to be a part of table, and if you do, what times and days of the week you can do that. The other link, Karen, what was the other link?
That was a sign up for March 22nd.
For the March 22nd, that's right. And it may not have worked for you the first time you clicked on it. That was my error. I programmed it to work for only UNC affiliated folks, but I've taken that off. So please sign up for slots for that. March 22nd. Green Team had a meeting last night.
Yesterday.
Yes, yesterday.
It has some glitches. So those of you who were unsuccessful in getting in, I apologize, we may have some glitches. So we do have a litter pickup.
Yes.
This Saturday, the 8th, for those of you who would like to participate. I'll be sending out a reminder if you want to on the link inside your mail.
All right. Thank you, Linda. Christy and Brian represented the club, was it yesterday or Wednesday? Wednesday at the Public School Foundation of Teacher Appreciation Breakfast. We were awarded this beautiful, what do you call it? An award. But it says presented to East Chapel Hill Rotary Club, supporting teachers through the Teacher Supply Store since 2008. And I'm lowballing it, but we have provided countless hours of volunteering, but at least $500,000 in school supplies. And that was a figure. They made a big to-do over this, and that's really nice. I'm sorry I couldn't make it. My family was ill. I'm no longer ill. I wasn't ill. I do want to make mention of this. Tim from Marcel's brought this to us. And Tim, how did, you don't have to speak long, but how did you come into possession of this?
A friend of mine helped me clean up his father's estate, Jack Huntington.
Yes.
And that was there, and they asked me to bring it to y'all.
That's awesome. And Tim, thank you so much for this. And if anyone's interested, there's some literature on this gentleman, and you can read the inscription here.
What is it? Who is it?
What is it? I don't know. They come prepared. Objects of Rotary. I'm gonna
You need an AI.
put you in charge. Where's Austin? Miss Fedor, I will get back to you on that. But I thought it was very nice of them to bring it. A chance to read up on it. Are there any other announcements from anyone in the crowd? No? All right. With that, I will bring Lorenzo up to introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, in case you haven't made the connection, today's speaker is Mary Lynn's. There he goes. And my son, Austin. And he lives in San Francisco where he works for Google. He heads AI for the wearables division. And it is just an honor for me to tell you a few things about his accomplishments. One fun fact about our son is that he's a really talented dancer. In high school, he would attend American Dance Festival. And then in college, he majored in computer science, and he minored in dance. And I was so happy to put him in that. After college, he went to China. He got a master's degree at Tsinghua University in Beijing. And he went in the middle of COVID. He had to go through a 5-week quarantine program. 5 weeks. And the first 2 weeks of that, he was locked in his hotel room. They would bring food and water to his door. Marilyn and I were ecstatic. He was locked in a small room with nothing to do. He called home every day. Well, now he has a lot to do. He travels around the world. He's doing very exciting things. He fills us in on what he's doing. And I'm like, you go, dude. And she's like, are you sure you're getting enough sleep? He was with us last night. I know he got enough sleep for a great presentation. Please welcome our son, and we love very much, Austin, to East Chapel.
So, hello everyone. Thank you so much, Dad. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Gives me a lot of hope that I will continue to be just as handsome when I am his age. But we can only hope. Let me know if the audio level is good. As my dad alluded to, I did a lot of theater growing up, so I naturally project a lot, but I want to make sure we can also record this presentation as well. So we'll try to do our best here. But hello, folks. Super excited to be speaking with you all today. My name is Austin, and as my dad mentioned, I lead the AI division of Google's wearable business, specifically on the hardware side. And I'm so excited to be in my hometown of Chapel Hill this week. It's a really incredible week. I'll be speaking with some faculty at UNC later. We'll be doing some lecturing as well, but I wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to come to Rotary. My dad has been a Rotary advocate and such an important member of the community ever since I was in high school. I also did RILA as well, so I was a RILA scholar. So truly a byproduct of Rotary as well, and it's really incredible as a full circle opportunity to speak with you all today. So, speaking of that, I want to be able to jump right into it. AI is a huge topic, and we're going to talk a little bit about the future of AI in some ways that you might have not thought about previously. I want to lay out a disclaimer that the landscape of AI is evolving dramatically. We have not been in an environment with such dramatic technological development and revolution, maybe ever in human history, and the stock market definitely reflects it. But I want to make sure you know that everything here is a snapshot of what is happening today in our world. And so we'll take some time just to talk through one, who am I? Why should you listen to me for these 30 minutes? But then we'll also talk about wearables, what their appeal is, and maybe some ways that you haven't thought about them before in terms of delivering value to your daily life. We'll also talk about why wearable AI today, and we'll also talk about how the future of wearables might come up into your daily life, such as the workplace. Then we'll get into some contemporary topics. I know if you've been watching the news, DeepSeek and some recent developments out of China is disrupting the industry pretty broadly. I'll talk a little bit about that, give you some amazing talking points to talk about with your buddies later. And then we'll talk a little bit about some other developments in research as well. So, diving right into it, who am I? My name is Austin. I'm a product manager, and I created and now lead the AI team for Google's wearable division, specifically on the hardware side. It's called Pixel. We have watches, we have phones, we have tablets, we have a whole suite of personal devices. If you're looking for your next smartphone, I highly recommend Pixel. But that all being said, this is a team that I've led since December 2023 and have been continuing to do so for a year now. Studied at Princeton University and also at Tsinghua University in Beijing. And we have a team of over 30. This is an illustrative list, but I want to help call it out because it's important to say that this is not something that happens individually. We have incredible collaborators and stakeholders from across the company, and it's really an honor to get to build and lead this team. And our mission overall with Watch and what we try to do with AI is to build personalized AI. And we try to do that by ceaselessly reimagining, re-envisioning, and prototyping new experiences that we think really showcase the best of Google's product ecosystem. I know we all use Google products in our daily lives, and we're trying to bring that same utility and that same value to your hardware devices as well. So, wearables and their appeal. I think the important thing to really nail at first is what is a wearable at the end of the day. So we're going to play a little game. I'm going to throw up a few slides here, a few pictures. I want you to tell me whether or not you think this is a wearable device. We'll start easy. This is the Pixel Watch. I work on this. Do you think this is a wearable?
Yes. Yes.
Amazing. Yes, I would absolutely. Let's step it up a little bit. These are AirPods. This is the #1 selling headphone in the world. Are these wearables?
Yes.
Okay, yes. I saw a few head shakes no, but at least at Google, we also consider these to be wearables. It's part of our same division. This is a hat that is designed to stop paparazzi from taking photos of you. The flash naturally reflects back, and so a photo like this ends up looking like this. There is no batteries, there's nothing part of it. It's a hat. Is this wearable technology?
Yes.
Okay, yes, but a little less enthusiastic that time. Last one. This is a glucose monitor. People who are diabetic or pre-diabetic use it. It allows you to track your blood sugar levels. Is this a wearable?
Yes.
Okay, yes as well, right? But I think what we try to illustrate here is that there's a huge range in terms of what a wearable can be. If you look at other devices such as smartphones, tablets, laptops, they are so clearly defined that even differences in like the size of the device is meaningful to differentiate the category. The only difference between a tablet and a smartphone is the size of it. And yet those are completely different categories. The wearable is this grab bag of so many different things, so many different purposes. And I think what that means is that it's a relatively undefined area. Wearables as a product category haven't hit the same product market hit and don't have the same clarity from a consumer perspective. And so a working definition could be any technology that is used or worn while on your person. But that doesn't do a lot in terms of clarifying work, and it doesn't do a lot in terms of clarifying what a smartwatch should be. And so I love to use this graphic. There's 3 big circles here. There's wearables, which you can think of like accessories, sunglasses, rings. We have productivity, right? Traditional tech like laptops, computer, tablet. We have fitness. These are things like weights, maybe even Peloton, tonal. And I fundamentally believe that a smartwatch is the intersection of these 3. It is necessarily a wearable device that enables productivity and fitness. That said, a smartwatch today really sits in this category right here. It's more of a fitness tracker than anything else. And that's because even though we buy smartwatches for the promise of being productivity tools, they don't really do that. You get text messages, but you often just completely ignore them. You get phone calls, but you never answer them. I fundamentally believe that a smartwatch is not the product it's supposed to be. And part of my work with leading the watch team at Google is really about how do we bring this closer to the middle, where it delivers true productivity. And I think the test for that is something we call the bus test. So imagine you got on the bus and you realized you forgot something. Would you get off the bus? For your phone, absolutely. I don't even know how you got on the bus without your phone. For headphones, yes. Laptop, absolutely. Would you get off the bus for your smartwatch? Most people, no. And if you were, it's because you wanted to track your fitness that day. And I think that's the truth, that for most people, smartwatches don't deliver true value, true productivity, unless you're in a very specialized field like nursing, for example. And so that's what my team primarily focuses on. We want to make sure a smartwatch is a productivity device. But let's take a step back and let's say, why do we even care about wearables? Why do we need something other than your phone? And why do we continue to invest in this area? I think there's 3 big reasons. They are more respectful, and they feel more respectful than other devices. They feel less intrusive, and they also simply feel like the future. Tickles our fancy. For each of these, wearables feel more respectful. Time and time again, studies have validated that having technology visible in a social environment or a social context diminishes the impact and meaning of that interaction. Recent studies have shown that just having your phone on the table, even if it's turned over, has both parties walking away feeling like that interaction was 30 to 40% less meaningful, less impactful. And it only increases as you have something that's more and more of a barrier in front of you. Wearables, because they're more ambient, because I see a lot of people scrambling for their phones. Wearables, because they are more ambient, they are more natural, help diminish that ability. If we can deliver the same value of what the phone on the table does, but on your wrist or in another form factor, then maybe we can connect a little more and make that right impression with other people. They're also less intrusive. Wearables mimic form factors that have existed in our society for centuries, if not millennia. Rings, watches, necklaces, glasses. And because of that, they don't stand out the same way. It's much easier to have a wearable be a piece of fashion or something that you just wear as an accessory, such as mine. And that is something that allows a unique ownership and unique ability to enter our daily lives in a way that a laptop never quite would. And lastly, they feel like the future. Time and time again in media, we've imagined a world where wearable technology enables a different type of communication, a different level of ability to talk with other people, achieve work, achieve tasks. And so we keep coming back to it just because it captures our imagination, and like many other technologies such as rocketry or submarines, it's something that we inevitably draw ourselves to. So hopefully I've convinced you a little bit about the opportunity of wearables and why wearables are unique as a technology. But let's talk about why wearables today, and why they should happen now. There's been a lot of hype and skepticism about wearables recently. These are some old headlines, but I think it does a good job illustrating that there's been renewed focus. But it's worth calling out that we've tried wearables many, many times before. And so why wearable AI today versus 10 years ago when the Google Glass was released, or 100 years ago whenever this was released? And I have 2 answers for that. One, small hardware, the type of hardware that's required for wearable AI, has hit a fundamental tipping point in feasibility. And then 2, new technologies are emerging at the exact same time that makes the feasibility of wearable AI more viable. I'm going to start with a brief lesson on a very important computer science principle called Moore's Law. Has anyone heard of Moore's Law before? Okay, I'm seeing a few head nods, but maybe some people haven't. Moore's Law is an incredibly important principle that has governed a lot of our technology development in the past 50, 60, 70 years. It was created by Gordon E. Moore, who was one of the founders of Intel, and in 1965 he noticed a very interesting trend. Every 2 years, the number of transistors on a computer chip doubled. Transistors are the basic units that allow a microchip to do the task that it wants to do. And doubling transistors is effectively the same thing as saying that the power has doubled. The amount of tasks we can do has doubled. At the time, this was the chart that he cited. He had 4 data points. Turns out, he made a very, very good guess. This is today, and these are all the major computer chips that have released, and Moore's law has stayed true for the past 70, 80 years, effectively. Every 2 years, the power of computer chips has effectively doubled, and the price of that compute has not only stayed the same, but in many cases been cut in half. What that means is that the chipsets that you see today are fundamentally more powerful than they ever have been in human history before. And that's how you get all those very crazy statistics like a calculator from Target has more computing power than the Apollo 11 space mission had access to. I say all of this to illustrate a very important principle here, which is we have finally hit a very interesting point in terms of Moore's law and its application with small devices. Previously, Moore's law, in fact, in relation to smartwatches and other wearable devices, have been offset by other features that people have wanted. The compute has become more powerful, but people wanted GPS. They wanted heart rate tracking. They wanted a pedometer in their watch. And so, given that you can only have so much space on a watch before you just have a giant rock on your wrist, there was never really an increase on the computing capabilities of smartwatches. They were always offset by larger features. And in fact, in 2017, the head of Qualcomm, which is a major chip manufacturer, said as much, that Moore's law doesn't exist for the category because there's so many obvious things to offset that increase in power. That is not true today anymore. Most consumer smartwatches have every feasible feature that you would want to have, all the battery life you would want to have, and so many developers and hardware manufacturers are looking elsewhere. Some are making smaller watches, such as Apple. Their most recent watch was advertised as being 10% thinner, which is an unbelievable accomplishment. Others go for battery life, such as Garmin's. But we on Pixel Watch believe that there might be an opportunity to invest in power. And that power allows a certain type of task that wasn't done on watches before. At the same time, it also enables new form factors. Smart rings, smart glasses, necklaces. These are all things that maybe we've seen some press about in the news. And you might ask why now before other times? And it's because the chips have finally become small enough that you can fit it in a form factor like that. So that's one component. But the second component is that there are new technologies now that allow us to overcome the pitfalls and gaps that wearable technology previously had. So if you think about the size of the device, as the device gets smaller, it becomes much harder to have precise inputs on that device. You have a big computer, you have a full keyboard, you have a mouse, you can do everything you want to do. But as you start getting to something like a smartphone, all of a sudden you have touch and you have buttons, which is good, but you wouldn't want to edit a spreadsheet with it, you want to do a PowerPoint. And when you get to the really small form factors, you can't even touch precisely on that screen. So you're reliant on voice and gestures. This limits your ability to do any sort of meaningful productivity task because the precision that's required to achieve it isn't available on that device. And that was a fundamental barrier for our ability to make wearables be a productivity device for quite a while. The whole value of a smartwatch is that you don't really, or a fitness tracker is that you just kind of put it on your wrist and don't interact with it. It tracks everything for you, and if you had to actively track everything, then it wouldn't be that valuable anymore. AI, and the development of AI, and the use of context, is what allows us to bridge this gap of poor context and poor abilities. LLMs, or large language models, can take natural language in addition to abundant types of context, such as the day of the week, how well you slept that day, your relationships with certain people, your tone of voice, and it can use it to generate outputs. So an example I love to bring up is this task of macro tracking almonds. Let's say you eat a handful of almonds, you need to log it in MyFitnessPal. Traditionally, you would have to open Google, look up the nutrition facts, you'd have to open the app, you'd have to measure it out specifically. There's all these steps that you have to do, and you would never be able to do that on a smartwatch. Way too precise, you don't even have certain of these functions. But with AI, you could say, hey, can you just log these almonds for me in my fitness app? And it'll be able to understand contextually how many almonds you're probably eating, the fitness app you use, where you would want to log it, and what that login information is. And so you can see that a major task like this that might take you a minute, 2 minutes, is just one phrase. If you can turn many, many tasks that require precise inputs into simple phrases, simple sentences, 1 task, 2 tasks, all of a sudden you start to see a way in which productivity tasks become very simple and feasible to be done on a wearable device or other form factor, because voice and gesture is the interface. So, now that we've talked a little bit about technology and things enabling, let's talk about how wearables might emerge in your daily life, specifically the workplace. I think this is a really interesting area because it's not something we often think about in terms of productivity. So historically, we've had many big grand visions about how wearables are going to enable us to do our daily life and how we're going to be more productive, some positive, some negative. But the truth is that wearable technology has already been part of our daily lives in very interesting ways, particularly in physical trade-based jobs. So Google Glass, which I think we all know of and think of as being a failed product, is actually something that is very successful, but purely in a B2B realm. Google Glass actually partners with warehouse and logistic companies in order to allow foremen or warehouse managers to offload the cognitive load of needing to manage a warehouse, knowing where certain things are, to this basically on-head display. And so much of our supply chain today already uses these sorts of logistics because the simple offloading of that information is very valuable. DHL, Lucas Warehouse, pretty much any major warehouse player uses wearable technology today already. And that's only going to become more pertinent and more available in your daily life. It's also worth noting that these jobs have certain consistent themes. Mobility, varying degrees of cognitive load. And that's an important thing as we start to distill down into how it affects our everyday work. I think it's important to call out that even though wearables are increasingly powerful, available, and could do these productivity tasks, they're never going to be a replacement for the phone. You should think about them as complements to your daily life. We all have smartphones, but I would venture to say all of us also have laptops or tablets or desktop computers. And the truth is that wearables, no matter how good they get, will only ever become excellent at a subset of tasks. Whereas this large space of every task you want to do is still better for larger devices, larger surfaces. And so while, hey, you might never write an email from your smartwatch, you might send some text or you might figure out where your next meeting is. The same way that you would never edit a presentation or a spreadsheet from your phone. At least I hope you don't have to. But you might write some emails and you might start some drafts. It's all about elevating this device to be more powerful and finding the unique tasks that uniquely fill it. And the value proposition of that is that you save time. Now, at first, it might just be seconds. You might wonder to yourself, do seconds really matter? Why do people care? The truth is that we all, at the end of the day, care. It's in our human nature to try to find those little optimizations in our daily life. And this picture is a great example of that. I'm sure you've seen these, I'm sure you've taken these yourself. This is called a desire path. And it happens when there's an existing concrete structure, such as a sidewalk, but people naturally forge their own path in between the two. This path is not as nice, it's not as pretty, it's not as fancy, but it's faster. Lets you be a little lazier, a little more efficient, and people vote with their feet. They take the desired path. And I fundamentally believe that if you create technology and products that allow these sorts of shortcuts, these shavings of seconds off of your daily life, not having to take your phone out of your pocket, unlock it, go to the app you want to, do the interaction, close it, put it back in your pocket, if that all just becomes a flick of your wrist and a voice, and then it goes away, a lot of people are going to love that. And so our fundamental business at the end of the day is saving seconds because they actually matter. There's some qualities about what wearable AI tasks will excel at. They're quick tasks, so things that take less than 30 seconds. We at Google talk a lot about the idea of being less than 10 seconds, less than 5 seconds, or glanceable. You should just be able to look at your watch, know what you're doing, and be able to move on with the rest of your life. There are also tasks that are repetitive, things that happen frequently where being able to pull your phone out of your pocket becomes nauseating, opening your laptop becomes a chore. And so we want to make sure we deliver on that, such as responding to a text, for example. There are also unpredictable tasks, things that are sporadic, on the go. You can't anticipate the need for it before it happens. The thing I love to talk about here is an idea on the go. I know we've all maybe been on a run or we've been in the shower, we have that amazing idea, and it sucks to have to pull out your phone or unlock it or try to find a piece of paper. I fundamentally believe that if you just go to your watch and say, hey, remember for later this brilliant idea I have for a dinner party, and then it's just there available for you later, that's going to be really good. People are going to love that. And then lastly, it's uniquely mobile and physical tasks. The things that are going to keep your hands limited, occupied while you're active, those are the things where a watch is going to really be valuable. Hiking, riding a bike, navigating a city if you're on a Segway tour. Those are all things where your hands are going to be occupied and you don't want to have to risk the opportunity of being distracted when you otherwise have that computer immediately available on your wrist. And how will they emerge in the workplace? I think they're going to do 3 big tasks for us all. 1, they're going to reduce cognitive load. The things that you used to have to keep on the top of your mind always, where that next meeting was going to be, your current to-dos, summarizing notes. They're going to increasingly be in that loop and be able to be there to offload that for you and help you know agentically where that next thing needs to be. They're going to help you maintain focus and presence. The need to have a phone, a laptop in a meeting room, I think is going to quickly diminish, especially for the sessions that are just one-on-one conversations with people. AI is going to be able to summarize those meetings, help you identify the action items and responsibilities, and overall allow you to be more in the moment and more present as a whole. I wouldn't be surprised if many executives are able to switch away from needing to carry a laptop with them or a phone with them entirely, and they can stay connected via their watch. Lastly, it's about turning things that are tens of seconds to single seconds. I think we've already established that that's going to be very valuable for a lot of people. So now, I want to talk about some contemporary topics, and I want to talk about something that is very, very top of mind. I want to make sure that this is my opinion, this is not Google's opinion, but this is someone who reads a lot of research papers, is very engaged in the space, and has tried out a lot of this stuff myself. And I want to talk about 2 major trends. The first one, which is Chinese LLMs, Chinese AI. The second one is the future of small and what the research points to. This one is very contemporary, very recent, so there's a lot emerging here. But I want to take a moment because I figured this is something that's top of everyone's mind and they're trying to figure out how to interpret it. So, if you weren't aware, China, a Chinese company, released a model called DeepSeek. DeepSeek is just like OpenAI or Meta's Llama, any of those things, ChatGPT, and it has absolutely exploded. And the day it was released, it became #1 on the App Store. It took $60 billion off NVIDIA's evaluation, which is larger than the entire stock market of Mexico, for context. And internal reports say that Meta and Facebook were an absolute panic. So let's talk about why is this so important? What does this mean? Is China lying? Did something happen? What does this mean for the future of AI as a whole? I think the most important thing to highlight here is that there's a lot of news and punditry that wants to diminish how important of an accomplishment this is. I think because US-China relations are at an all-time high. And so there's a lot of people that want to diminish either for political gain or for personal gain. If you're a tech investor, you want your US tech investments to be the ones on top. But the truth is that DeepSeek is a top model. Here's a chart of major tasks that you would measure performance on. DeepSeek is this blue one on the far left, and you can see that for coding, quantitative reasoning, it is outperforming every single best model that is available today. And for many other tasks, such as reasoning and science and knowledge, it performs basically just as good as the best of them. So regardless of how DeepSeek was developed or how it came to be, it is incredible. It's quite good. It's also important to note that DeepSeek is 100% free. For the same model that's performing on these benchmarks, OpenAI charges $200 a month. And DeepSeek not only has it free, it's open source. Open source means that anyone could download the entirety of that model. They could tweak it, they could run it, they could use it for their own purposes. They can basically modify and see how everything operates under the hood. You cannot do that with any other model that's in these categories as well. And it was very cheap to train. It cost about $5 million, which is about 1/10 the price of these other models in terms of their training and their inputs. What this all means is that this is probably the most important disruption to the AI ecosystem that exists today. US tech fundamentally has operated on this model of AI investment, that AI is going to create sky-high revenues long-term. It's how this magnificent seven, these big companies of NVIDIA, Facebook, Apple, Google, Tesla, have been able to become so dominant in the stock market today because everyone thinks that this is the future. And because they think it's this high future and this winner-takes-all model, they've been able to fundraise and get an incredible amount of investment, both on the startup side and in the stock market. And these high valuations require and almost necessitate high spending. If you're getting all this money, you have to blow it somewhere because if not, your competition is going to do the same thing. But if a model that performs just as good does it for 1/10 of the cost, it doesn't charge anything to make the money back, it completely undermines how the entire logic of the system has operated so far. And so what does this mean long term? Well, I think the most important thing to highlight here is that the US's unequivocal dominance in AI is fundamentally challenged in a way that it hasn't been before, and it seems like it's only going to continue. I don't know why, candidly, we've fallen for this fallacy many times where we constantly say for any industry, China is 5, 10 years behind, they'll never catch up to us. But when it came to cars, when it came to manufacturing, and now when it's come to AI and technology, that's proven not to be true. They're incredibly good at catching up, and that's where they are right now. I talk quite a bit with some former, some of my friends who I have students with while at Tsinghua, as well as faculty there. It's very apparent that this is a clear focus area, and they just happen to be doing much better. I think it also calls out that the monopolies that US tech currently has created an abundance of inefficiency. There is not a lot of competitiveness besides companies that have the absolute most in terms of money. And it's cultivated this more is more approach in terms of just spending more money on compute, pushing the absolute limits. We don't even need to figure out applications yet. We'll just push super far and we'll just be the best because we have the best technology. And I think this has proven to be faulty. We have lost that innovative edge and that ability to do less with more. It's not as entrepreneurial as it is in other markets. I also think this means that from the consumer perspective, AI availability will skyrocket. If models that otherwise cost $200 a month are now free, it means that all of us will have access to the best AI in a way that wasn't feasible before. And it also means that certain products, features, integrations that were previously unviable because of their cost structure are suddenly viable. It would not surprise me that in the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to see a dramatic increase of AI-enabled features in your daily life. An incredible value because of that. So what does this mean? Does this mean US tech is over? Personally, I don't think so. What this points to is that the current era of companies being tech suppliers and just being valuable because of that is likely over. The value and the dominance of a company like OpenAI or Meta, where they just produce a model and they're valuable because they produce the technology, is going to shift away because clearly other people can do it for cheaper. What it does mean, though, is integration with application will be the future. It'll be about taking that model and using it to solve a real problem or satisfy a real need or integrating it into the products you already use today will be more valuable and more important than ever before. Now, I might be biased because I work in hardware at Google. My whole job is figuring out how do we integrate Google's technology into unique applications. But I think this is fundamentally true because it's clear that there is no moat anymore with just being the best research. The space is too innovative, it's too hot, and there's too much opportunity to improve. And I know there's probably a lot of questions about this specific section, so I'm happy to dive deeper, but that's kind of the surface area there. I want to talk about what this means long-term and where the future of research is as a whole. Now, I read quite a bit of papers, and what this largely points to is that investment is going to shift away from simply pushing the absolute limit of capabilities, and will instead focus on optimizations. I've been talking about these papers and the importance here for quite a while now, but the more is more approach that technology has had with AI research is likely to not be as productive anymore. We just used to throw power, resources, energy at this problem and would see incremental improvements, and because of that, that was good enough, because that was the best available. But this more is more approach is very expensive. So large models have costs that scale directly with them. The larger a model is, the more expensive it is to train, the more resources it takes to train, the longer it is, and the more that it costs in terms of power and energy to deliver experiences. So it's great that we keep having larger and larger models, but it makes the viability and feasibility of them much, much harder. It also makes the idea of them ever being available at a consumer level much, much more expensive, besides for the most expensive critical tasks or the wealthiest consumers where $200 a month is worth it to you because the time savings you get is more than $200 a month. But research has demonstrated that there's a lot of ways we can optimize these models. We can make them smaller, more efficient, more powerful. What I think this means long-term is that AI is going to shift away from being something that you access via the internet and increasingly be something that exists on your device today. First on your laptops and your smartphones, but as I'm very much advocating for, eventually your smartwatches or other devices. What that means is that not only is that compute and that power going to be available to you It's going to be more private and personal because it doesn't have to leave the device, it stays with you. And you also don't have to pay for it because your hardware that you already bought, your phone, your laptop, is the compute. The energy that you use to charge that device is the power that you're spending there as well. And this is ultimately what I think will deliver this promised AI revolution that I think a lot of billionaires and investors promise. That AI in the future is going to be in your pockets, on your wrist, part of you, not something that exists in the cloud the same way. So, there's only so much to cover, and I know we hit quite a bit, but there's many more things I'm happy to dive in on. We can talk more about China, we can talk more about AI hardware, some recent launches in the space, the importance of a portfolio in a hardware company such as ours. We can also talk about more developments in terms of research models, or we can talk about what's ever interesting to you. The time is yours, and I really appreciate the opportunity to chat today. Thanks so much.
Austin, thanks very much for your time. Your dad's pretty good.
Yeah.
When you mentioned some of the things that you're trying to accomplish, but how do you identify what the customer's unmet needs are that you're trying to identify?
So, first of all, great question. And the truth is we do an incredible amount of research at Google. We do everything from focus groups to survey studies. We do these studies that's called a MaxDiff, where basically we generate random permutations of different theoretical devices, and we actually gauge how much someone's willing to spend on that. And we work backwards from there. We also know that when you survey consumers on why they buy devices, there are certain trends that consistently come up. Communication, fitness, wanting to be connected, wanting to feel safe. Those are major needs that I feel are personally unmet, because I think the solutions today, while they do it at a surface level, have very poor utilization as well. And that's another metric we look at. What is the actual daily use of these features that are supposed to fill this need versus how much people talk about this need, that needs to be met. And so a lot of our features look at that gap, and we look at the technology, and we work with engineering design to say, how do we build something that addresses this in a better way? Can we build a better mousetrap? Are people actually having this problem solved, or do they have such an excruciating problem that this very crude solution is doing enough, but it's not as good as it could be?
Thanks, that was fascinating. A question about the DeepSeek though is,
yes.
Obviously we're seeing what's going on with TikTok.
Yes.
Concerns about invasion of personal space. I have information particularly regarding China. You know, who knows, but that's got to have a huge impact in terms of what your industry is thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a quick, let me see, yep, there we go, okay. Some major rebuttals, things that people talk about with DeepSeek. I don't think this specific point is brought up, but it touches on something similar, which is, I think, this idea of censorship, privacy. How do we think about Chinese technology? And I think the truth is, for consumers, there's a very small portion of people who care very deeply about privacy. And that is something that could exist at a national security level, and I won't diminish the legitimate concerns there might be for national security. At a consumer individual level, data privacy security is kind of a foregone conclusion. It's already been established that US tech companies do many things with your data, many things that maybe you wouldn't want to do otherwise. And so I think for many US consumers, they look at it and they say, well, sure, China's this like floating entity in the middle of nowhere, but like Facebook is this floating entity in the middle of nowhere as well. Like it just seems to be fear-mongering, trying to get me to not use what's otherwise a better product. And that's why TikTok, despite being Chinese owned, and things such as Temu, which is like Amazon but basically in China, being worse in terms of environment, human regulation standards, everything like that, it's cheaper. It's a better service, it's a better product, and that's ultimately what drives market demand at the end of the day. I think the interesting thing about hardware and technology and just consumer expectation as a whole is that stated preferences rarely match up to actual preferences. Stated preferences around environment, standards, privacy are all secondary insofar as the product being equal. The moment that a product is discernibly better, cheaper, or more in any other way, people will always go with that first, unfortunately. So I think there's real regulatory concern. DeepSeek is something that you could download and run on your own computer as well because it's open source. So if you're truly concerned, that's something that can be avoided. And there's many cloud providers that are already taking DeepSeek, downloading it, and just running it on US servers. So if that's something you're concerned with, but you otherwise want to try the model for yourself, that's something available as well. But I won't diminish that there is a security issue, nature of security concern.
People have predicted the demise of Moore's Law for a long time.
Yeah.
How long will it go on? And would you make some comments on biological systems helping going forward?
I hope that's on. Okay. So, yeah, people have been predicting the decline of Moore's Law. Going back to Moore's Law, many people have said that Moore's Law was going to end any day now. Let me go back to this slide real quick so you can see. We covered a lot of content, as you can see. There we go. People have been saying Moore's Law would stop for decades now. They said it here, they said it here, they said it here. It is true that we're getting to the point where it's hard to imagine. We're having transistors that are existing at like nanometers wide. They're basically measured in like atoms or molecules wide at this point. So at some point, like physically, we can't make smaller transistors. That said, we seem to keep finding new ways of making them even smaller and even cheaper. So I think we likely have at least another decade, honestly, before we start hitting the point where we're talking about transistors the size of atoms. But there may be a new type of computing architecture that emerges that makes something like the transistor redundant or introduces new efficiencies that would mitigate like what Moore's Law would otherwise make up for. Yes?
If I could before you move on.
Yeah, please.
What about biological components?
Biological, yes. I mean, there are many things about biology that we want to learn from.
We'll use that.
Yeah? Okay. There's many things about biological computers that are very compelling, very interesting, and it's something that we, with regards to AI, particularly, we want to study because the truth is with a lot of these LLMs, we're trying to mimic things that look like general intelligence, humans' ability to rationalize, think through problems. And there's a lot to be gained there. I don't know enough about silicon development to know for sure whether or not a biocomputer is on the same wavelength. I will say separately that there's many innovations right now with how a chip can be developed. This might be a bit nerdy for a group like this, but increasingly we're examining the idea of ternary computers. So binary is how a lot of computers exist today. Ones or zeros. Basically, it's an electrical signal or it's not. Ternary would be the idea of like zero, a weaker signal and a stronger signal in terms of electricity. And it turns out for tasks like AI, it is like unbelievably more efficient to have a ternary computer. So it might very well be that there's new types of computing that exist that makes binary redundant for certain tasks, and we continue to see these sorts of gains, even if it's not in pure transistor count. But candidly, I don't know enough about biocomputers to say if it'll continue with that.
I read an article on the internet. I no longer believe everything I read on the internet.
Yeah.
Keith, you got it off. Turn it off.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
I read that a lot of these bands on the smartwatches have forever chemicals in them, and that
Yes.
that might be bad. Is that an issue or not?
So I don't specialize with band manufacturing. I do think it is worth buying. There's a lot of cheaper bands available and cheaper accessories online. I would highly recommend doing your research before buying something. I believe most of the major companies that are selling first-party accessories are using very high-quality standards to ensure against that. So, if you want something cheap, maybe you get what you pay for. Yes.
Speak like I speak at home. Thank you very much. This is a great question for you.
Yes.
So as you think about wearables,
yes,
and you look at this audience today,
yeah.
you've got just a couple of gray hairs in the audience,
yeah.
right? Are you taking into consideration some of the aging process?
Yeah.
So one thing as an example, you don't have hearing aids. You talk about buds and hearing aids.
Yeah.
So when you look at wearables, you're thinking, what do we need to be doing as we see the baby boomers start to come of age and who are coming of age? What are those considerations, and will we actually see significant improvements in things like hearing aids?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question for maybe those who couldn't hear was about how wearable technology might evolve, particularly in relation to baby boomers and as they come to age, things such as hearing aids. I think wearable technology will be incredibly valuable in three main domains. I think one, particularly with health and well-being, I believe that there is an incredible amount of work that models could do to make health more understandable, more learnable, especially a more conversational experience for an older population. If you have a Fitbit or a tracker today, there is quite a bit of statistics, just a wall of information, and I think many people would love to be able to have more of a conversation about what do these mean, should I be worried about this, and there's a way in which already many products are incorporating kind of AI coaches, health assistants, to help you better understand your current health, your current well-being, whether you need to be concerned, what you can do about certain things that you're seeing. And I think just having something that feels a little more in the loop, a little more human, something that you can talk to and ask questions and get specific answers back on, is going to be incredible, especially as a tool to work with medical professionals to kind of just have something a little more in the loop and better understand your own health and well-being. I think I think the second thing is that more agentic, more conversational interfaces as a whole will allow you to better use and access technology, especially as populations get older. We all grew up speaking and talking to people. It's something that's the most intuitive interface for us in order to get information. I think that'll continue to be true. And I think improvements with models and learning and understanding will only improve the quality of experiences as a whole. I work very closely with our accessibility teams, and we look a lot about how we can use wearables and technology to help people understand, for example, with deaf populations or people who might be hard of hearing. How do we use headphones as hearing aids? How do we use your watch to help notify you if someone might be talking to you or understand where the direction of a speaker might be? There's a project we're currently working on, which maybe I shouldn't say, but using visual cues to help people who are deaf understand who is talking in a conversation. That's one of the biggest things that deaf people struggle with in a large conversation, who is speaking at the current time. And there's ways in which that we can better assist that agentically. I think especially as we start moving to things such as smart glasses, watches as well, there's a lot of benefit and value to be gained there as well. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about health monitoring.
Yes.
And I'm a physician.
Absolutely.
So I can look at my watch and I can see whether or not I'm in atrial fibrillation. I can see whether or not I'm in ventricular tachycardia.
Absolutely.
What about alerting the individual? What about alerting our healthcare providers? Using watches to monitor our blood pressure. We can't feel our blood pressure. So we don't know if it's dangerously high. These are incredible tools to monitor our health, keep us safer. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. So I think Pixel Watch is actually, I think from an objective lens, is a market leader in a lot of these features. We just released in the US a feature called loss of pulse detection. It will be able to identify when you are no longer having a heartbeat and immediately alert medical staff, letting them know that you might be having a loss of pulse event, such as cardiac arrest. And something like that is incredible in terms of being like a personal health guardian. And so we think about that dimension of really being that safety net for some of those curveballs that life might throw at you with your health. In addition, we think about being a health coach, someone that can, or a tool or technology that can be in the loop with you to better understand metrics that might otherwise be scary to you, such as blood pressure or blood oxygen or skin temperature. If you have these vital signs that are starting to show that a cold might be coming on, should you be aware of that? How do you react to that? And I also think critically it's helpful as a tool that we could build into helping physicians have stronger visibility and clarity on the day-to-day health of their patients, but also the concerns of their patients. So of course there's all the statistics that you can just get from the watch, but there's also ways in which we could use these as tools for physicians to help say, hey, you know, Mrs. Jones is having a lot of questions about temperature and sleeping at nights. Highlight that to a physician as a potential topic to be engaging in a little bit more. If you really start to elevate this as a tool where people go to a day-to-day for a lot of those questions that they might otherwise aimlessly Google search for or call their niece who is in medical school and try to, you know, poke at, there's ways in which it can be more accessible, easier, and then also available to medical professionals to assist with that as well.
Also, we got one here.
Yes, absolutely.
Austin, you lived in China.
I did.
You studied it.
I did.
And then I have two-part question. Did you ever feel threatened or out of place or worry about, I don't know, anything? Because I think Americans have such a view of China that we don't quite understand.
Mm.
The second part of my question is, are there any products, all of our cell phones or watches or anything, that we manufacture here or in Europe that does not come from the Pacific Rim?
Yes, so question one was about my experience in China. There's so much to say. It could be a tweet or a TED Talk. It's hard to choose in between. But I think for me, the things to call out is that at no point in China did I ever feel unsafe. Rule of law is absolutely incredible there. If you've ever been to China, you will notice there's almost no police officers. That's because it's a very communal society. So if you look at the spectrum of communal, as in everyone feels like they have mutual responsibility to each other, versus individualistic, like my responsibilities to myself, China and the US are actually very diametrically opposed. Most people in the United States, no matter in what context, feel as if they are operating fundamentally within their own realm, and what is ever happening to the person next to them or around them is none of their business, pseudo-competitive. What's notable is that even being in a city like Beijing, where there's 10 million people, is that everyone kind of feels a little bit of responsibility to each other. And so most things that occur do not need to be policed or need law enforcement to resolve, because everyone kind of understands like, hey, me not doing my part would cost my social reputation and my stake in this community, and that's more devastating than any sort of punitive punishment I would get away with. In the US, you rely overwhelmingly on police to resolve issues, and in China, almost all disputes are resolved person to person because your social standing is at stake, and that's very important to everyone else there. So at no point did I feel unsafe. I was definitely someone that stood out. I got asked for photos very often by a lot of people. But I know with pretty high confidence, and especially for some of my friends who were women who did the program with me as well, is that it was some of the safest they've ever felt. You can walk down the street at like 3 a.m. by yourself in a major city and you have no fear whatsoever that something will happen. So there's that side. Not manufactured in the Pacific Rim. The truth is no. We've moved a lot of manufacturing out of Asia, or out of China, but it's just landed in places like Vietnam, Thailand, sometimes Korea as well, Malaysia. It is simply the best spot for development and manufacturing, partially because cost of goods and labor there, partially because there's such a strong culture around education there as well, so many people are just very well educated in that part of the world. And also, because China has become such a major manufacturing base, it's just very easy for them to set up production plants there as well. So if you see things that aren't made in China, with exception to India, almost all of them are Chinese plants that are being established and managed just in that other country.
Austin, I hate to do it, but we have a 2 p.m. hard stop.
No.
Could you stick around?
Absolutely. Oh, amazing. Thank you so much.
This was amazing.
Thank you all. Really appreciate it.
folks, have a great weekend. Go Heels. We will have a pop-up next Tuesday, but I'll send more information about that.
Thank you so much.
Basketball on the weekends, right? Oh, you are a big fan. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. What a great speaker.
Oh, yeah. He's just, yeah.
He's got it figured out. He's done it once or twice, hasn't he?
He has.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. I learned a lot, you know.
I know.
We could have listened to him for another hour or two.
And like you can tell, he does that a lot.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he does it eternally, and yes. Yeah, he's done it a few times for sure.
What's up, Charlotte? You came back?
His theater experience probably helps.
Oh, I'm sure it helped. Yeah, I'm sure it helped. Yeah.
Stage presence, confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came to hear also.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Yeah.
So his brother and Kai.
I remember him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were all part of that scene. Sit in those smelly stands.
Y'all always had the good cushions.
Yeah, right.
They were smart about it. Yeah.
The rest of us is better.
Yeah. No, thank you, man.
Such a great young man.
Oh, yeah.
That's wonderful.
It's, obviously, it's just crushing.
Get back in the next awesome. Yeah, James Orr leaned over and goes, "Where were you when you were 26?" So we won't hold that against her.
Oh, yeah.
There's never a recession in this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no.
It might not be a question.
Oh, sorry. Oh, so stupid. Yeah. Oh, thank you, John.
Left here go.
Oh, that was a great idea. I remember being overcode. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Dave Moreau's coming. Summers are hotter. You know, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Oh, thank you.
Settle up.
No, he doesn't.